Welcome everyone. And if you are here, if this title reached something in you, then you are already in the middle of the question this video is going to answer completely. You went no contact. Or you are considering it. Or someone imposed it on you. And somewhere beneath the silence, you are asking the one question no one seems to answer honestly: what do they actually want right now? The silence between you and a narcissist is never empty. It is one of the most psychologically charged spaces two people can occupy. From your side, it may feel like grief, like discipline, like the exhausting maintenance of a boundary you have to rebuild every single morning. From their side, something entirely different is happening. Something you were never meant to understand. The narcissist performs indifference about no contact with a conviction that is almost convincing. They move on visibly. They post, they appear, they acquire, they perform the life of someone for whom your absence is a minor footnote in an otherwise abundant story. They need you to believe this performance. They need everyone to believe it. Most critically, they need to believe it themselves. They don't. Beneath the performance of indifference, beneath the replacement supply and the revised narrative and the social motion that never quite stops, there is a want. Specific, relentless, psychologically unavoidable. A want so fundamental to the architecture of narcissistic personality that it operates whether they acknowledge it or not, whether they are conscious of it or not, whether they would ever in their lives admit it to another living person or not. Today we name that want. Completely. Without the softening filter of charity or the distorting lens of the hope that they might be different from what the psychology documents them to be. We name it with the same clinical precision and cinematic honesty that has made this channel a space where survivors come to finally, fully understand what happened to them. The haunting question, during no contact, in the silence you are either holding or considering: what does the narcissist actually want from you? Not what they say. Not what the performance suggests. What is the real, unperformed, psychologically documented want that lives in them throughout every day of the silence you are maintaining? The answer has layers. Surface layers that arrive quickly and are relatively easy to name. And deeper layers, the ones that operate beneath conscious awareness, in the foundational architecture of a personality organized entirely around the management of a core wound they will never willingly expose. We are going into all of it today. What you learn here will do something important. It will reframe the no contact from a painful, effortful act of self-denial into something else entirely. Something with agency. Something with power. Something that, when you understand what it does to them and why, becomes not just survivable but recognizably, undeniably, the most powerful position available to you. The silence you are holding is not empty. It is full. It is full of everything they want and cannot have. And understanding exactly what that is, specifically, precisely, psychologically, transforms the silence from something you endure into something you wield. Not as a weapon, as a truth. Let's name it. Stay with every word. Because what follows is the information the narcissist has always needed you not to have. And you deserve to have it. Before we name what the narcissist wants during no contact, we must understand the psychological state they are actually in. Because the state they perform for the outside world and the state they actually occupy are separated by an enormous, carefully maintained distance that almost no one gets to see across. The narcissist during no contact is in a state of supply disruption. Not deprivation in the way a healthy person experiences longing, something more primitive, more urgent, more physiologically insistent. The narcissist's entire regulatory system is externally dependent. They do not self-soothe. They do not self-validate. They require a continuous stream of external input to maintain the psychological equilibrium that everyone else builds from the inside. When you go no contact, you remove yourself as a source of that input. Not just the positive input, the admiration, the attention, the devotion, all of it. Including the negative input, your reactions, your pain, your attempts to reason with them, your emotional responses to their behavior. All of that was supply too. All of it was feeding the system. And now the system is running on a deficit it was never designed to manage. Want one? They want your reaction. Any reaction. This is the first and most immediate want. So fundamental, so urgent, so non-negotiable to their system that it drives behavior within hours of no contact being established. Not your love, not your forgiveness, your reaction. Proof that you are thinking about them. Proof that the silence is costing you something. Proof that they still have the ability to produce an emotional response in you even across distance. The reaction one is why the first contacts after no contact are often designed to provoke rather than to reconnect. A message calibrated to produce anxiety. A social media post timed for maximum visibility to you. A reach out through mutual contacts that will certainly find its way back. All of it aimed at the same target, your emotional response. Because your emotional response is supply. Even your pain is supply. Want to, they want the narrative control back. Before no contact, they controlled the story of the relationship, what it was, what it meant, who you were inside it, who they were inside it. No contact removes that control completely. You are now outside the reach of their reality construction. You are building your own understanding of what happened, without their management of your perception. And that is, to the narcissist, an unbearable loss of a power they may not even consciously know they were wielding. The narrative control want drives the smear campaign, the revised history, the reach-outs that attempt to reframe events before your understanding of them solidifies. They need to get to your story before you finish writing it yourself. Because the story you write without their input, the accurate story, the one that matches your actual experience, is the one they can never fully recover from. Want 3. They want confirmation that they were worth the pain. Beneath the aggression, beneath the replacement supply, beneath the performed indifference, there is a want so vulnerable it is almost unrecognizable as coming from the same personality. They want to know that losing them hurt. That the no contact is costing you something. That you are not fine. That the absence of someone like them registers as a genuine loss in a person like you. This want is not empathy. It is not concern for your well-being. It is the ego's desperate need for confirmation of its own significance. If you are fine, if you are healing, if the silence is producing relief rather than devastation, then the relationship they constructed their identity around was not as significant as they required it to be. And that possibility is one the narcissist's psychology will work tirelessly to prevent from becoming your visible reality. Want 4. They want the door left open. Not walked through, left open. The narcissist during no contact is almost never seeking an immediate return to the relationship. What they are seeking is the preservation of optionality. The ability to return if and when the calculus suits them. The power to decide when the silence ends rather than having the ending decided by your genuine, permanent closure of the door. Here is where the want deepens. Here is where we move past the surface wants, the reaction, the narrative, the confirmation of significance, into the architecture beneath them. Into the want that the narcissist would most strenuously deny, that lives in the deepest, most defended part of their psychology, and that your no contact is, right now, relentlessly exposing. Want 5. They want you to come back first. This is the want that drives the hoovering, the manufactured crises, the reach-outs through indirect channels, the carefully timed appearances in your peripheral social world. They need you to be the one who breaks the silence. Not because they miss you in the way the word deserves. Because them breaking the silence first would be an admission of need. And need, for the narcissist, is the most dangerous thing they can reveal. The power architecture of the narcissistic relationship was always organized around this principle. They are the one who is needed. They are the one who is pursued. They are the one whose approval is sought, whose attention is competed for, whose presence is the prize. Your no contact inverts this architecture completely. And the inversion is intolerable. So they work, subtly, persistently, across multiple channels, to engineer your return without having to request it. Watch the engineering. It is sophisticated and it is relentless. The post that references something only you would recognize. The mutual contact who mentions them casually and a little too specifically. The message that arrives on a significant date, an anniversary, a birthday, a moment they know carries emotional weight for you. None of it is accidental. All of it is designed to produce the same outcome, you reaching back first. Them never having to acknowledge the reaching. Want 6. They want to know you are not replacing them. The replacement fear runs beneath every other want like a current. They replaced you, or appeared to. They need you to not be doing the same. The thought of you building genuine connection, genuine intimacy, a genuine life with depth and meaning that does not include them, that thought is a specific, acute, psychological torment the narcissist's ego cannot comfortably hold. This is why intelligence gathering about your life never stops during no contact. Through social media, through mutual contacts, through whatever peripheral channels remain available, they are monitoring for evidence of your replacement of them. And finding that evidence is worse than finding that you are struggling. Struggling confirms their significance. Thriving without them, truly, visibly, genuinely thriving, is the one outcome their psychology has the least defense against. Want 7. They want you to doubt yourself. The entire architecture of the relationship was built on a foundation of your self-doubt, carefully cultivated, strategically maintained, continuously refreshed. No contact threatens that foundation because distance allows clarity. Clarity allows you to see the relationship accurately. Accurate sight produces certainty. And a certain target is not a controllable target. So they want the doubt to return. They want the confusion that proximity always generated to reach you even across the distance. They deploy it through indirect contact, through the narrative that reaches you via mutual parties, through the carefully constructed public image that makes you question your own memory of who they were, through the occasional communication designed to reintroduce the specific uncertainty that kept you manageable for so long. The dramatic shift in this chapter, every want we have named reveals, in its exact shape, what your no contact is actually doing to them. They want your reaction, which means the silence is depriving them of oxygen. They want the narrative back, which means you are writing a truer story without them. They want you to break first, which means you are holding a power they cannot recover by themselves. The wants are a map of your impact. Read the map. And the deepest want, the one beneath all the others, the one they will never speak aloud, the one that operates in the sealed interior where the performance never reaches, is simply this. They want to matter to you. So, boys, permanently. Not because they love you. Because you are the mirror that reflected the version of themselves they most needed to see. And without you, that reflection is gone. And without that reflection, they are left with only what they actually are. And what they actually are is the thing they have spent their whole life running from. Now we enter what the wanting costs them. Because wants that cannot be fulfilled do not simply dissipate in the narcissist's psychology. They accumulate. They pressure. They produce behavioral consequences that are visible to anyone who knows what to look for. And the longer your no contact holds, the more visible those consequences become. The replacement supply begins showing stress fractures. Because the narcissist in no contact is not fully present in new relationships, they are partially occupied, always, with the unresolved want that you represent. New supply senses the incompleteness, feels the distraction, registers the specific quality of someone who is physically present but psychologically elsewhere, and begins, however slowly, to recalibrate. Their social performance intensifies in ways that reveal rather than conceal. The posts become more frequent and more curated. The public displays of happiness carry a quality of insistence, as though the happiness needs to be believed rather than simply being. The people who know them well enough begin noticing the gap between the performance and the person. And gaps, once noticed, are impossible to unnotice. The monitoring of your life, which never fully stopped, becomes more active. Social media checks increase in frequency. Mutual contacts are approached with questions wrapped in casual framing. The intelligence gathering escalates precisely because what is being found, evidence of your stability, your growth, your building of a genuine life in the silence, is not providing the reassurance the want requires. The wound is not closing. The monitoring is the symptom. They begin making contact mistakes. Reaches that reveal more desperation than strategy. Timing errors that expose the monitoring they are performing. Messages that break through the performance of indifference and carry, for anyone reading carefully, the unmistakable frequency of someone who is not as indifferent as they need to appear. The mask is working harder. The cracks are working wider. The two processes cannot coexist indefinitely. The internal experience during this period is one of increasing dysregulation, the technical term for what happens when a system built on external regulation loses reliable access to its primary regulatory source. The narcissist becomes more volatile in unobserved contexts, more demanding of secondary supply sources, more sensitive to any perceived slight or reduction in the validation they receive from available mirrors. The hollow grows louder. Want 8, the final and most devastating want, surfaces in this dysregulation. They want to stop wanting you. They want the unresolved wound to close. They want the monitoring to feel unnecessary, the intelligence gathering to feel pointless, the specific frequency of your absence to stop generating the static that replacements cannot silence. They want, on the deepest level, to be free of the hold that your no contact, your simple, clean, consistent absence, has established over their psychology. But they cannot achieve that freedom without the one thing their psychology prevents them from doing: genuine self-examination, genuine acknowledgement of what they are, what they did, what it cost, and what it would take to actually change. That examination would require dismantling the false self, entering the very hollow they have built their entire personality around avoiding. And so the wanting continues. The static continues. The hold continues. Because they will not pay the price of its resolution. The social consequences crystallize slowly. The narrative they constructed about you begins meeting the observable reality of someone who is healing, building, becoming, and the collision of those two things produces quiet but accumulating damage to the credibility of the story they needed to tell. People begin drawing conclusions the narcissist cannot fully control. The ecosystem shifts, and the shift, once begun, has its own momentum. What remains, when all the wants are mapped and all the consequences are named, is this: the narcissist during your no contact is not in the position of power the performance suggests. They are in the position of someone who lost something they cannot recover, cannot replace, cannot stop wanting, and cannot obtain the resolution their psychology requires without paying a price they will never willingly pay. That is not power. That is the most sophisticated cage ever constructed. And they built it entirely themselves. And here we arrive at the truth that this entire video was always carrying. Not the narcissist's wanting, though naming it was necessary. Not their collapse, though understanding it is protective. The truth is about the silence you are holding, what it actually is, what it is actually doing, and what it means that you have chosen to maintain it. The no contact you are holding is not passive. It is not the absence of action. It is the most active, most powerful, most psychologically significant thing you can do in the aftermath of a narcissistic relationship. Every day of it is a day of depriving a system of the input it requires to maintain its hold on you. Every day of it is a day of building something in yourself that the relationship worked continuously to prevent. The wants we named today, the reaction, the narrative control, the confirmation of significance, the open door, the prevention of your replacement of them, the return of your self-doubt, the cessation of their own wanting, all of them are wants that your silence is systematically, relentlessly, without effort or intention on your part, denying. The silence is not nothing. The silence is everything they cannot have. You do not need to maintain the no contact as a strategy against them. You do not need to think about their wants or their dysregulation or the cracks forming in their performance. In fact, the most powerful version of no contact has nothing to do with them at all. It is the version you maintain purely because your life, without them in it, is genuinely better, quieter, more real, more yours. That genuine preference for your own peace, that authentic, non-performed, non-strategic orientation toward a life that does not include them, is the most devastating thing you can offer the narcissist system, because it means the no contact is not costing you something. It means it is returning something. And a person who is being returned to themselves by your absence is not available to be retrieved. The grief is real. The longing, if it is there, is real. The moments when the silence feels like loss rather than liberation, when the wanting flows in both directions, when the history you shared asserts itself with specific and painful vividness, all of that is real and all of it is allowed. Healing is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of clarity alongside the feeling. Both at once. Neither canceling the other. What the narcissist wants during no contact is a window back into your interior, your emotions, your doubts, your continued orientation around them. The healing that no contact produces closes that window. Not angrily. Not strategically. Simply because as you rebuild your relationship with your own interior, as you populate it with your own voice and your own clarity and your own genuine life, there is less and less space for their presence there. The window closes because the room fills up with you. Keep going. However long it has been, however hard the particular days are, however loud the wanting gets when the silence presses in, keep going. The ground beneath you is more solid than it was last week. The clarity is sharper than it was last month. The version of yourself emerging from this silence is more real, more whole, more genuinely free than any version that existed inside the relationship. That is not nothing. That is the entire point. Share this with the person who is in day 3 or day 300 of no contact and is wondering, in the quiet, whether any of it is actually doing anything. Whether the silence is reaching them. Whether any of this matters. Tell them it matters. Every single day of it matters. Not because of what it does to the narcissist, though it does something profound. Because of what it does to you. What it returns to you. What it makes possible in you. The narcissist wants you reactive, doubting, reaching, returning, available, unhealed, and permanently oriented around their gravity. The most revolutionary act available to you is the refusal of every single one of those wants, not through fighting, not through retaliation, but through the simple, daily, accumulating choice to be so thoroughly, so completely, so unapologetically alive in your own life that there is simply nothing left of you available for their wanting to reach. That is the silence they cannot survive. And it is entirely yours to give.